It ain't no punks down here in Houston, Texas. And it ain't no punks up there in Pittsburgh with how the Houston Texans defense dominated. And I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Rodgers just tweets out, I'm done, y'all. The Texans took it all away from me.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around, guys. What an amazing performance from the Houston Texans defense and other players who stepped up. And so this is going to be my quick reaction to the Monday night victory where we saw the Houston Texans dominate 30-6. Go ahead and close those steel curtains. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Mike Tomlin. Bye-bye, Aaron Rodgers, who was crying on the sideline every time he got hit and every time he got touched. Bye-bye. It's over. It's over. It's over. Today's episode is going to talk about Nick Caley. I thought that Nick Caley called, if not his best, a top 2 game of his young offensive play calling career for the Houston Texans. And I talked about this on the Monday show, the pregame show. Nick Caley needed to be masterful in the red zone. And I thought he was, despite some of the inefficiencies and turnovers and bad play from his quarterback. I'm also going to talk about, listen, CJ was bad, understand that, but we're going to talk about some of the good on this Victory Tuesday. There's no way, there is absolutely no way I'm going to open up this show and not talk about the Houston Texans defense dominating the way that they dominated. And let's take a look at it really quick. Shout out to my everydayers from the Himalayas, making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day, for being a part of the Locked On podcast family and making us the #1 sports podcast network in the nation. Let's talk about this defense. Let's do it. Let's do it. Guys, coming into this game, the pregame, it was the Steelers will win this game 24-17. People had the Steelers scoring 20 points. And I think maybe they saw that last performance from the Houston Texans defense versus the Colts and Riley Leonard and thought maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers could sneak one up. Okay, well, 6 points scored in the entire game, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers were shut out in the second half. Okay, that's number one. All right, number 2, what have we talked about? They have a hard time creating separation over there in Pittsburgh. Them receivers ain't about nothing for real. No disrespect to them personally. I'm talking about what they do on the football field. And people were expecting those receivers to play a major role in taking down this Texans defense. Did they not remember Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley play on the same team? Okay, well, if they did, they were reminded Monday night. Derek Stingley and Kamari Lassiter combined for, this is per PFF, 5 targets, -2 yards. Okay, all right. The Houston Texans defense held the Pittsburgh Steelers to under 200 total yards. Okay, the Houston Texans defense held and contained the Pittsburgh Steelers passing offense to 2.9 yards per pass, 3.5 yards per carry, 0-2 in the red zone, 2 turnovers, 4 sacks, 2 scores, by the way. And shout out to Sheldon Rankins. This ain't no new year, new me where, y'all want big boys to get in shape. We can be big and still be athletic. And twice this year, Sheldon Rankins has shown y'all he get his hands on the ball. He going the other way. Shout out to Sheldon Rankins. Shout out to Will Anderson on that play, who was just a man possessed. So 2 scores, 8 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, 7 times against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Houston Texans defense held that offense to 6 or fewer plays. Guys, this is historic. This is historic. And they were challenged early in the game, right? The turnovers and the fumbles and everything that happened early in the game. There were some times where the Houston Texans defense were put in a compromising spot. and they were able to fend off the Pittsburgh Steelers. They didn't result, none of those drives resulted in a TD. If I look at what happened after the Houston Texans offense turned the ball over, I'm looking at that first fumble where the Pittsburgh Steelers were actually in some very good field position. They came away with nothing. They punted the ball. The second fumble, they came away with 3 points, only resulted in a field goal. The third in the turnover, the interception, that resulted in the punt. So it wasn't easy for the Texans defense. The offense did an amazing job if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but they did a poor job and pissed you off if you're a Texans fan. They made it hard on this Texans defense. They absolutely did. But who came to play for Houston? After that first drive where we saw DK get an explosive play for the Steelers, right? What happened? No more explosive plays from DK. DK Metcalf held to 2 catches, 42 yards. He had the 25-yarder. After that, nothing. That's on 5 targets. None of those guys, and we talked about Kenneth Gainwell throughout the week. He had 26 yards, 4 catches for 26 yards. But none of those players, from an offensive standpoint, had any impact on the game. So you're looking at an offense that, in my opinion, came into the game handicapped. You're finally getting DK back after a couple of games. He was out due to suspension. Okay, in moments like those, you typically will look for another player to step up. And the Houston Texans offense know all about that. When we didn't see Nico Collins, who stepped up, Dalton Schultz, Jaden Higgins had a moment or two throughout this season. Nobody has stepped up for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense coming into this season with no DK. And that wasn't going to change against Houston, considering their defensive backfield looks like Kamari Lassiter, Derek Stingley, Caleb Bullock, and Jalen Petrie. And I got to give some love to Jalen Petrie. Again, I don't know how the hell he's not an all-pro player. I really don't. And I think there's a strong case to be made for Caleb Bullock in his second year. Is the name there for both of those players? Maybe not. They may not be household names. Those are 2 players that were drafted later in the draft, second round for Petrie, with 3rd or 4th round for Bullock. And I understand that, but then I kind of don't, because if you put on the tape, it ain't a lot of players playing better than them. There's not a nickel in this league playing better than Jalen Petrie, and he proved it tonight. This was a shut-up game. There's not too many safeties in this league that has played better than Caleb Bullock, who, by the way, has 5 interceptions on the year. He proved it tonight. This was not only a collective effort from the stars, but Tremont Smith. Y'all know we killed him early this year, throughout the year. Miles Brown, we killed him throughout the year. Sheldon Rankins, he's not a household name. Tommy Togiai getting busy. Like, these guys all came to play, and I think a lot of that had to do with the defense time and time again this year. The defense, I think internally they know our offense ain't there yet. Our offense don't got it at all, or they're going to give us just enough. So there's an internal feeling with that defense that we are going to have to go out there and snatch souls. I think the Texans defense was so dominant that the front office staff, the Rooney family, the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base, everybody's going to come to one conclusion. The Texans defense retired Mike Tomlin, legendary coach Mike Tomlin, and Aaron Rodgers. This Texans defense performance was so dominant that this performance is going to jumpstart the rebuild for Pittsburgh. Yeah, that's how dominating it was. And was it always turnovers? No, it wasn't. Was it always sacks? No, it wasn't. But when you have a unit that collectively the stars come to play and the guys under them, I call the other guys, and I say that because of the movie, right? That everybody comes to play. and they didn't have to do a lot of disguising. It was just mano y mano. Who gonna punk who? You come into this game and people talk about the weather and Pittsburgh ain't lost on a Monday night and this is what they do and this, that, and the third. Why y'all didn't bring up Pittsburgh always been losing for the past 7 years in the first round, right? You want to bring up the weather? The Texans have shown you this season that they can win in cold games. So this was going to be a physical game, right? And early on, I thought it was a physical game. Both teams were hitting physically early in the game. But what happened? Just like I told y'all, Aaron Rodgers leads the league in throwaways. When that pressure gets to him, hey man, he's not gonna stick around. He can't pick up the first down with his legs no more. He's not extending these plays with his legs no more. He's gonna throw the ball away to live for another down. And what did that do for the Houston Texans? Oh, now we're looking at second and long, third and long. And that quick game stuff, it ain't gonna work. Trying to get that yak yards, it ain't gonna work. You throw the ball to one of your receivers and playmakers, they're going down whatever they are. The defensive performance tonight may have been one of the best performances I've seen in the playoffs since the Patriots stopped the greatest show on turf 2.0 in the Super Bowl. And honestly, a little better than that, right? But they weren't on they didn't do it by themselves, right? They scored 2 times, obviously. But on the offensive side of the ball, CJ was not good tonight. No way around it. He was not good tonight. Some guys played maybe their best game of the season. We're going to talk about the good in that segment. And we're going to talk a little bit about the bad. Stick around for this Victory Tuesday edition of the Locked On Texans podcast. Before diving into that conversation, Texan fans, new year, new systems. Right? This is a time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation threads, which makes replies faster and more personal. Right? If you're running a business, Quote is the way to go, guys. And I'm being for real. I work in communications. Quote is the way to go. It's no surprise. Quote is the number one rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnfl. That's Quo, QUO.com/lockedonnfl. Quo, no missed calls and no missed customers. And I'm going to tell you something else, Texas fans, that I value a lot as a professional. And I think in today's time, we all need to value, and that's the ability to get help with getting a job. It ain't as easy as it used to be, right? I understand that. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know what I'm talking about. You know how important it is. Or have you been a candidate and you thought the job was perfect for you, but it turns out it wasn't? If you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If I needed to hire someone for this show, I'd go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need, real experience, and not just resume buzzwords. I wouldn't do that. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a higher than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who checks all of your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results. Using Indeed sponsored jobs. listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Texas fans, we are back talking Texans on this Victory Tuesday where it ain't no punks down here in Houston. So let me just say this real quick, and I'm kind of breaking character. In today's modern game, people love offense. Love offense. But I kind of grew up on Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins would want to take the soul out of a player, demoralize a player on the field. That's what the Houston Texans defense did. There were countless times where I was looking on the broadcast and I'm like, is that Aaron Rodgers crying again? Is he? Who is he mad at now? And I don't know if it was Will getting after him, if it was Henry T creating pressure, it was Jalen Pitt, like those, Daniil Hunter, like they were just getting after. So I don't know if he was mad at his offensive lineman or just mad at the fact that he ain't got it no more. And that's no disrespect to A-Rod. A-Rod's going to go down as a top 4, top 5 all time. You can make the case for top 3 maybe. You don't got the rings for it, but 4 MVPs, like he's going to go down as one of the tops. But he ain't got it no more. Not for this Texas defense. You could have got away with that against Baltimore. You can't get away with that with Houston, dog. And let's just say this. The offense ain't necessarily helped the Texans out too much. But I want to dive into the good from the offense because there were some good things. And I don't think CJ Stroud was all bad. But when he was bad, it was all bad. All right, so first and foremost, when I look at the offense, 10 of 15 on third down. What does that say to me? That say to me, well, let's go check the time of possession. Immediately, we go check the time of possession. If a team is 10 of 15 on third down, let's go check the time of possession. 32-27 Houston's way. So they dominated the time of possession. That's amazing for Houston. Okay. 408 total yards. Okay, so that tells me at some point the offense was able to create plays, right? Here's my favorite number that I'm going to give y'all. 164 rushing yards. Okay. 5.3 yards per carry. Okay. But let's go to the man. Let's go to the man, Woody Marks, the rookie. And I briefly talked about this on the Monday show and maybe on the Sunday show or Saturday show, the weekend show that I put out with Ted Wynn. But none of these rookies have had the expectation of, being coddled as a rookie for a long time now. Like this offense has needed the rookies to come along with it, right? And in a moment where this season, I talked about it, like Arian Urshey has stepped up, and Jaden Higgins has stepped up, and Jalen Noel has had his moments, and Woody Marks has had his moments. But in the moment where Houston needed to lean on a player offensively, Woody Marks, career day, 19 carries, 112 yards on the ground, 5.9 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. I thought Woody Marks was phenomenal in everything he did for the Houston Texans against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought he was phenomenal. And I thought because of how Houston was able to run the ball, let's look at what happened with the offensive line on the inside there. I didn't worry about the edge. I didn't worry about TJ Watt. I didn't worry about Highsmith and Herbert. I didn't worry about those guys. I did not. What I worried about for the Houston Texans was the worry that every time they play an elite D tackle or an elite D tackle room, they struggle on the inside. It was not the case tonight versus the Houston Texans. I thought Andrews played the game of his life. I really did in terms of being able to run the ball. And because Houston was able to run the ball What happened? You didn't see a lot of 3-and-outs from Houston. I think that they had one true 3-and-out and another drive that resulted in 2 plays, but it was a fumble or an intercept. I want to say it was a fumble. So only one true 3-and-out for Houston. This is an offensively challenged team. Only one 3-and-out for Houston Texans. And also, we look at the job that Nick Chubb had for Houston, specifically on that third drive where the Houston Texans, they go 92 yards, 14 plays, 61 yards on the ground, 8.7 yards per carry. And when they got into the red zone, what did I say on the pregame show? The red zone for Houston, that ain't necessarily up to the players. Obviously, the players got to execute. But for the Houston Texans to go 2 or 3 in the red zone, let's check out the first one. The reverse boot play action to Christian Kirk wide open underneath. I thought Nick Caley was great. I'm going to talk about him a little bit more. I thought Caley was great in that area. Also, I thought that he was great down late in the game. Or not, they weren't down, but late in the game where he realized my quarterback just ain't got it right now. I'm going to run the ball. And that speaks to Houston not being scared or being a punk. Guys, when does that happen against Pittsburgh? I'll call the Baltimore Ravens a great value version of themselves early in the year. It's a Dollar General version of the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. It was hard to watch out there being a football fan and how kind of soft that they were playing defensively. You know, those guys are old on the defensive side of the ball. Joey Porter played a great game. So I thought the run game for Houston opened up the entire offense. Could you get mad at the flea flicker? Absolutely not. Not the decision, not the play call, because if you peep, that was on the second down. The Houston Texans were running the ball at a high rate at that time. They ran the ball at a high rate all game. But taking that shot right there, that told me my run game is opening up the offense. And what have we said all year? When the run game opens up, when they run the ball well, they open up the offense. And if you give CJ Stroud just a second more, hopefully, we can't say he'll hit him for sure now because of his own miscues, but that's probably a touchdown to Jaden Higgins. He gets his first of his rookie career in the playoffs. So the offense has some very good moments. The bad moments were absolutely CJ Stroud. And it just speaks to how the game unfolded for Houston. They win the game by 4 scores, 3 scores, 4 scores? No, 4 scores. They win the game by 4 scores. But what happened? The defense scored twice. CJ Stroud all year has been a game manager, guys, and that's no way around it. Do I think he's going to follow up on that performance with another when he's really bad performances? Like, again, he made some great throws. The Houston Texans, they went 10 of 13 on third down. CJ Stroud had a lot to say and impacted Houston being able to sustain drives. That's a positive. The Houston Texans also 12 passing first downs. That's a positive for CJ Stroud. The 2 fumbles lost, the interception. And honestly, the interception, in my opinion, was worse because it felt like on that specific play and a little bit on the Christian Kirk touchdown, but I'm not going to nitpick that play because Houston scored. It felt like he was just a little bit slow to the party, where the running back was open underneath, Hutchinson was open underneath, and if you zip it to one of those players without thinking so much about it, you're looking at sustaining the drive or maybe Hutchinson scoring there. But this is just an extension of Houston's season, where the offense does just enough and the defense carries it home. Now, I think in this case, because of the run game and how impactful it was, the Houston Texans offense did more than just enough. They were 2 or 3 in the red zone. That's what you want from the Houston Texans. Right? They were good. And if CJ Stroud eliminates those brain farts, you may look at a 40 burger, right? Like, if he's better, Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers may retire on the spot. But he has to be better. I'm excited right now, guys. We got to talk about Nick Caley, give Nick Caley some love, and I also want to just give D'Amico Ryan some love as well. I cannot close out this segment talking about let's talk about what's good, right? Let's talk about what's good. Christian Kirk waited all year. Christian Kirk waited all year to do what he did. And Houston needed every bit of it. Houston needed every bit of Christian Kirk. 8 catches, 144 yards, a TD, 230 or more yard catches and runs, multiple first downs. That was special, Kirk. I also thought Nick Kelly was special. So let's give him some love to close out today's show. And for the Houston Texans, guys, I hope, and I really do hope, you took some time out to enjoy this wild card round. Maybe some extra cash. Because with FanDuel, you can. They are officially in playoff mode where every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users gets a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boost you have that you can apply to your bets. Listen, the boost lets you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, defense, quarterback play, or coaching. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs get rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL game day. It's also a great opportunity to shuffle here and talk about Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save hours every week. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonNFL and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months free 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/lockedonNFL. That's gusto.com/lockedonNFL. That's what the Houston Texans are doing. They're going for the Gusto. I have to give Nick Kenny some love. Before I do, I think there's a lot of unsung heroes from the victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, obviously, guys, when you see a team that has struggled to put it together in one game, the Houston Texans offensive line, as of late, they've done a much better job of protecting the quarterback. And I understand CJ Stroud was sacked 3 times. Of those 3 sacks, are there any you can equate to CJ Stroud? Maybe one. So it wasn't a picture perfect day, right? But they still did a good job, all things considered. Sorry about that. They did do a good job, all things considered, protecting their quarterback, right? And let's be honest, CJ Stroud, 21 of 32 for the day, 250 yards. Did have a touchdown, 7.8 yards per throw. I mean, it wasn't all bad for CJ Stroud. And this is a number that I absolutely like. The 3 sacks only resulted in 6 yards lost. I mean, I think that's very important. In the past, we've seen those 3 sacks result in 20 or more yards lost. So that's something that if we want to look at the positives and maybe nitpick the positives, that's one of them. But when your team does a good job of protecting the quarterback, your O-line protects the quarterback and opening up rushing lanes that we hadn't seen before consistently throughout this year in one game, I think that's very important to highlight. And I also think Woody Marks just did a much better job than he's done all year in reading and reacting to the holes that are open for him. I thought his vision was good for Houston against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really did. I thought it was. And I thought Nick Chubb came in with some good relief, 10 carries. Nick Chubb ain't had 10 carries since November 2nd. In Nick Chubb's last 3 games, 1 carry, 6 carry, 1 carry. So maybe Houston was just keeping him on ice, making sure he's ready to go. for the playoffs, and Houston needed every bit of it, right? 48 yards. The offensive line, I thought, were really driving catalysts to Houston being able to dominate offensively when they were playing good football. And when they were not playing good football, it wasn't because they weren't able to protect the quarterback. It wasn't because they weren't able to open their rushing lanes. And I do think 2 times Andrews and his snaps could have been better. So I'll equate that to the offensive line. But it wasn't because they were not able to do the things that, from a philosophy standpoint, they've been wanting to do all year. And that's being able to run the ball, right? It wasn't because of that. They were able to run the ball. They were able to protect their quarterback. And I think what we really have to highlight is Nick Caley has told us and has showed us when they're able to run the ball, just look at how good this offense looks. Here's a number, a stat that I want y'all to know. The Houston Texans on 3rd and 5 or fewer, they converted 9 times to get the first out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 times on 3rd and 5 and fewer against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they converted for the first. What does that tell me? That tells me that they were running the ball well, or the first 2 plays of the drives resulted in positive yards. There wasn't a lot of penalties that was knocking the Houston Texans back. They had a couple, but it wasn't like what we've seen this year. But the Houston Texans did a very good job running the ball, did a very good job of controlling the line of scrimmage and bringing the physicality nature of the game to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I thought that of all the games, and I said it, of all of the games where Nick Caley needed to kind of put up or shut up, he put up and shut everybody else up that wanted to say, bring in Mike McDaniels. Why? The man has told you, when we execute, we're able to do the things that we practice. My offense works. And the one time it didn't work was an interception from CJ Stroud, I think 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4. Again, Stroud's problems tonight and his issues hurt the offense in ways that was minute, but could be very major if the defense didn't score twice, if the run game wasn't as good as it was. Nick Caley, I thought, was masterful tonight. And he really gave everybody, I think, on the national stage, more so locally, for the people that's been down him, he really gave a lot of the doubters a middle finger. A huge F-U, I'm here to stay. Thank y'all for watching today's episode of the Locked On Texans podcast. Got the lights off, got the light going, got to set the mood, right? Because the Houston Texans set the mood on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He set the mood on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they handled business. But I thought it was a physical game, and I thought what's important to highlight is, because of how Houston played on the defensive side of the ball, and somewhat of an anomaly performance from CJ Stroud based on turnovers alone. Now you look ahead, and you look to Foxborough, and I know y'all going to be here all week. Excuse me. What's stopping Houston? Who's stopping Houston? We're going to talk Texas all week. Do not miss an episode. Until next time, ladies and gents and Texas fans across the nation, peace.